Is it possible that Jesus' death on the cross wasn't the victory we've always believed it to be? For centuries, the cross has symbolized triumph over sin, the ultimate sacrifice that saved humanity. But what if we've been looking at it all wrong? What if, instead of victory, Pope Francis is suggesting that Jesus' death was a failure? The head of the Catholic Church, Pope Francis, recently dropped a bombshell that has left many people, both inside and outside the church, questioning their beliefs. He made a shocking statement that left even his most devoted followers stunned. During a speech that has been making headlines around the world, Pope Francis described Jesus' death on the cross as the failure of the cross. Think about that for a moment. Failure. Not triumph, not salvation, failure. The very idea is enough to make anyone pause and wonder. If the Pope himself is questioning the meaning of the crucifixion, what does that mean for the rest of us? This isn't just another controversial statement from the Pope. This goes deep, right to the heart of Christian belief. For 2,000 years, Christians have believed that Jesus died to save humanity, and that his suffering was the ultimate act of love and redemption. But Pope Francis is telling us there's more to the story, a side of it that we may have been missing all along. Pope Francis isn't saying Jesus' sacrifice was meaningless. In fact, he's challenging us to think deeper about what really happened on that cross. He isn't just talking about the physical suffering of Jesus or the traditional interpretation of the crucifixion. He's pushing us to look beyond the surface, to see the bigger picture. What if Jesus' death wasn't just about saving us from our sins? Was it also about teaching us how to live, face failure, and find grace in our darkest moments? He believes that the cross isn't just a symbol of suffering, it's also a symbol of human failure, and through that failure, of redemption. He wants us to understand that Jesus didn't come to win in the way we might expect. Instead, he came to show us that even in moments of loss, God's love and grace are present. This message has left people feeling a mix of emotions, confusion, anger, and even hope. Some see it as a direct challenge to everything the Church has taught for centuries. Others believe Pope Francis is revealing a deeper, more compassionate truth about who Jesus was and what his death means for us today. If the most powerful religious leader in the world is reinterpreting the death of Jesus Christ, it could change how millions of people see their faith. Even if you're not religious, this raises a more significant question. How many stories from history could have hidden meanings that we've overlooked? Pope Francis's belief that the Bible is more than just a set of strict rules or historical facts is one of the biggest changes he has brought to the Catholic Church. Instead of sticking to a literal interpretation, he argues that the Bible's stories carry deeper meanings that are relevant to our lives today. This might sound simple, but it's actually a huge deal. It's a way of thinking that challenges centuries of traditional teachings. For example, in the past, many people believed that the story of creation in the Bible's book of Genesis was a literal account of how the world began. But Pope Francis has a different view. He sees it as more than just the start of everything. He believes it's a story that teaches us about our connection to God and our responsibility to take care of the earth. This modern interpretation helps bridge the gap between ancient teachings and today's issues, like climate change and protecting the environment. We all face moments when life seems like it will crush us and finding answers seems impossible. In those moments, having more understanding, clarity, and guidance can make a difference. And that is exactly what the secret of the apparitions of Jesus offers. A path to clarity and peace through the revelations of Jesus. If you are looking for clarity and hope, this ebook could be the lifesaver you need. And the best part is that it is available now as a gift for you to download in the first comment posted, right? It could be what you need for today. Since the Second Vatican Council in the 1960s, there has been an ongoing struggle within the Catholic Church. The Council was a major event that brought the Church into the modern world, encouraging Catholics to engage more with history, culture, and society. However, not everyone was happy about this. Some felt the Church was moving too far away from its original teachings. This struggle has continued for decades, and Pope Francis is now at the heart of it. When Pope Francis began introducing his progressive ideas, many conservatives feared that the Church was losing its way. They worried that the Pope's focus on mercy, inclusion, and forgiveness would weaken the traditional values that had been passed down for generations. Some even accused him of watering down the Church's teachings to fit in with the modern world. For instance, many perceived his proposal to allow divorced and remarried Catholics to receive communion, a previously forbidden practice, as a direct challenge to centuries-old Church doctrine. And then came his shocking statement about Jesus' death. By calling it a failure, Pope Francis has stirred up even more controversy. For conservative Catholics, this isn't just a different way of thinking. It's a threat to the very foundation of their faith. Take his views on same-sex couples, for example. In 2013, Pope Francis famously said, "Who am I to judge?" when asked about gay individuals seeking a relationship with God. In 2021, he went further by suggesting that same-sex couples could receive blessings, marking a huge departure from the Church's historical stance on the issue. For those who have long followed the Church's strict teachings on marriage and relationships, this was a radical move. It's another example of how Pope Francis is reinterpreting what the Church has always believed, and it's creating fear among those who worry that these changes will lead the Church astray. But Pope Francis sees it differently. He believes these changes are necessary to keep the Church relevant in today's world. His teachings emphasize love, acceptance, and mercy. He wants to create a Church that welcomes everyone, no matter their background or situation. To him, the Church's mission isn't about sticking to rigid rules, but about helping people live better lives by following Jesus' example of compassion. In the past, many people have thought of forgiveness as something we only ask for after we've done something terribly wrong. It's something we often associate with guilt and punishment. But Pope Francis sees it differently. For him, forgiveness isn't about punishment at all. It's about understanding our shared humanity and recognizing that none of us are perfect. Imagine you've made a mistake. Maybe you've hurt someone, or maybe you've failed in some way that feels huge and overwhelming. The world around you may suggest that your actions warrant shame and judgment. But in Pope Francis' view, that's not how Jesus sees it. He teaches that Jesus looks at us not with judgment, but with love. This is a radical shift from how many people have thought about sin and forgiveness. Pope Francis emphasizes mercy instead of punishing us for our wrongdoings. He believes that God is always ready to forgive, no matter what we've done. The key, he says, is not to be afraid of our mistakes, but to be open to receiving that forgiveness and moving forward. At the heart of Pope Francis's teachings on forgiveness is his belief in the boundless compassion of Jesus. He often points to stories in the Bible where Jesus showed kindness and mercy to people who were considered outcasts, sinners, or failures by society. The message is clear. Jesus didn't turn his back on anyone, whether it's the story of his forgiveness of the adulterous woman or his interactions with tax collectors and lepers. Instead, he embraced those who were struggling the most. Pope Francis sees this as a model for how we should live our lives today. He encourages us to adopt the same compassionate outlook that Jesus had in a world where people often judge others harshly for their mistakes or failures. For the Pope, showing compassion isn't just about being nice. It's about recognizing the dignity in every person, no matter their circumstances. Pope Francis doesn't just want us to be compassionate towards others. He also wants us to be compassionate towards ourselves. This might be one of the hardest lessons of all. We are often our own worst critics, quick to judge ourselves for our flaws and shortcomings. But just as Jesus showed mercy to those around him, the Pope reminds us that we too are deserving of that same compassion. For Pope Francis, sin is not so much a permanent mark on our souls as it is an opportunity for growth and transformation. He believes that through God's mercy, we can always start fresh, no matter what we've done in the past. This approach doesn't downplay the harm that sin can cause, but it shifts the focus away from fear and punishment towards hope and renewal. This view has proven to be deeply comforting for many people who have felt weighed down by guilt or shame. Rather than perceiving themselves as unworthy or irreparably damaged, they can perceive themselves as individuals loved by God despite their imperfections. Pope Francis frequently emphasizes that God is never shocked by our failures. Instead, he walks beside us, helping us to grow and improve, just as Jesus did with those he encountered during his life. One of the most powerful examples of Pope Francis's commitment to compassion came in 2013 when he visited a juvenile detention center. Instead of presiding over Mass in the grandeur of St. Peter's Basilica, he chose to celebrate Holy Thursday by washing the feet of 12 young inmates from various backgrounds, including 2 women and several people from different religions. This act wasn't just symbolic. It was a real, tangible expression of humility and care for others, regardless of their past. It doesn't matter who you are or what you've done. Everyone deserves love and forgiveness. By washing the feet of these inmates, Pope Francis was following Jesus' example of serving others, especially those society has cast aside. He demonstrated that compassion can prevail even in environments where people face judgment and condemnation. This idea that compassion should extend to everyone, no matter their circumstances, is one of the most radical parts of Pope Francis's teachings. It contests the belief that forgiveness is exclusive to those deserving of it. Instead, it's a gift that we should offer freely, just as God offers it to us. Pope Francis's focus on compassion and forgiveness isn't just a soft-hearted message about being kind. It's a powerful call to action, a reminder that in a world full of judgment and division, we can choose a different path. We can choose to see the humanity in others even when it's hard. We can choose to forgive even when it feels impossible. And perhaps most importantly, we can choose to forgive ourselves. In a time when many people feel weighed down by guilt, shame, and fear of judgment, Pope Francis's message offers a way out. It's a message of hope. Hope that no matter how far we've fallen, there's always a way back to love and grace. If you're finding value in this content and it's sparking new thoughts, consider showing your support by hitting that super thanks button. By doing so, you're helping us continue sharing these important discussions and diving deeper into thought-provoking topics like Pope Francis's revelations. Your support allows us to keep creating content that challenges, inspires, and informs. For centuries, the teachings of the Catholic Church have often felt distant from the daily challenges most of us face. Many people have struggled to see how ancient stories from the Bible relate to their modern lives, leading some to feel disconnected from their faith. But Pope Francis has found a way to bridge this gap. He brings the teachings of Jesus into the present, using everyday language and real-world examples that make sense to people today. This way of thinking, where faith is not something separate from everyday life, but deeply connected to it, is central to Pope Francis's approach. He wants people to see that religion isn't just about attending church on Sunday. It's about how we live, how we treat others, and how we approach the challenges in our lives. Consider his frequent discussions about poverty and inequality. When Pope Francis talks about the struggles of the poor, he does so in a way that feels personal. His charity and empathy encourage us to put ourselves in the shoes of the poor. Instead of framing poverty as a distant issue, he brings it into the realm of our daily consciousness. He asks us to think about how we spend our money, how we view those less fortunate, and whether we are truly living in a way that reflects Jesus' teachings. One of the key takeaways from Pope Francis's teachings is that faith isn't about having everything figured out. It's not about being perfect or following a strict set of rules. Rather, faith is a journey, one filled with doubt, mistakes, and yes, failure. But through these experiences, we learn to embrace God's mercy and love. We learn that our imperfections don't make us unworthy of grace. Instead, They are what connect us to each other and to Jesus. The Pope's message isn't about accepting everything without question. It's about engaging with faith in a deeper, more personal way. It's about asking yourself what kind of person you want to be and what kind of world you want to live in. Most importantly, it's about understanding that despite our failures and flaws, we possess deep love and the potential for incredible good. Thanks for watching. Be part of our community by subscribing to this channel. Until the next video,